Beg your pardon. Forgot to knock.
Best introduction ever. Wait.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Let me get back to you. Hi, I'm Kevin from the SDP, and this is the 007 Diamond Jubilee. Our story starts with a flashback, where agents 007 and 006 sneak into a Soviet chemical weapons facility. They plant explosives on some gas tanks and torch the place, despite the execution of 006 at the hands of a Colonel Ourumov. Cue opening credits. 9 years later, Ourumov resurfaces in a plot involving a set of EMP satellites, a helicopter conveniently immune to such radiation, and an ex-Soviet bunker where the keys to these orbital bombs are stored. How is he going to use them, and who is the Yanis group he's working for? Well, it takes Bond a journey through Monaco, Russia, and Cuba to find out. Amidst the legal wrangling that besieged our franchise during the early 1990s, Timothy Dalton just up and quit the lead role in 1994. Once the parties involved got their collective act together and began work on a new movie, they drafted Pierce Brosnan to replace him. If you'll recall The Living Daylights, he was considered for the role once before. For better or worse, Pierce makes for the perfect film Bond. He handles all the things that the general movie-going public and the producers would expect from one portraying 007. He handles the high life with panache, can talk any woman he wants under the covers with him, except Moneypenny, pull off action stunts, most of them by himself, and top them off with a one-liner, all with ease. On the other hand, he does little to distinguish his character apart from that familiar image. Now, compare him to interpretations from the likes of George Lazenby or Timothy Dalton, who never seemed as comfortable on the throne, so to speak, but delivered something unique to the role all the same. Still, Pierce Brosnan happens to be the first Bond actor I ever saw on screen, and as such, he was the perfect actor to get my feet wet with.
Why can't you just be a good boy and die? You first.
Brosnan's Bond does his thing with Natalia Semyonova, a computer programmer. Natalia is one of those rare Bond girls who isn't played for sex appeal, for the most part. Instead, her dominant role is a shell-shocked survivor of the raid at the Severnaya bunker. This leads to a rough relationship when she meets Bond, given that she has no one to trust at that point, even her best friend at the observatory, but of course she falls for him eventually. He also teams up with Jack Wade, his CIA contact in St. Petersburg in Cuba. Why they couldn't have just reused Felix Leiter, I'll never know, but hey, at least he's not J.W. Pepper. Through Wade, Bond establishes contact with Valentin Zukovsky, an ex-KGB operative and current, quote, legitimate businessman, unquote. The one thing I take issue with here is his alleged backstory, where as a KGB agent, he matched wits with 007 and got shot in the leg as a result. Having this mini-plot thrust upon us all of a sudden does little to establish his character, apart from being yet another challenge for Bond to overcome, but his comedy-oriented performance fills in some of the cracks. Back in London, M is now portrayed by Judi Dench, making her the first female head of MI6 and superior of 007. Although the relationship between M and Bond has always been of the love-hate variety, Dame Dench's portrayal takes the emotions to the extreme on both ends of the scale, even taking his traditional image down a peg.
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War.
Point taken.
Not quite 007. I've no compunction about sending you to your death. But I won't do it on a whim. Even with your cavalier attitude towards life. Bond? Come back alive.
Epic win. This passage here not only gives M a much-needed chance to air out her grievances, but deconstructs 007's politically incorrect persona. Yet at the end, her wish for Bond to complete his mission and come back alive underscores the friendship they have when all is said and done. Ladies and gentlemen, the tsundere character type at its finest. Moneypenny has also been recast, played here by a stage actress named, ironically enough, Samantha Bond. Much like Dench's M, this new Moneypenny represents a shift in the position of women in Her Majesty's Secret Service. She's no longer going to accept Bond making promises of dates and not following through with them. In fact, in her first appearance, she's just come back from a theater date with another man. And feminism marches on. With her. It's kinda hard to talk about the antagonist force of this movie without revealing a certain spoiler, so stop the video if you haven't seen it yet. Or stick around, the reveal kinda doesn't make sense if you're not prepared. Alec Trevelyan is the former MI6 agent 006 and leader of the Yanis crime syndicate. That the chief enemy this time around is none other than 007's former equal provides a new relationship dynamic never before seen in the series. For example, note that he is the first villain to refer to our hero as simply James instead of Mr. Bond or 007. He teams up with Arkady Ourumov, colonel and later general in the Russian army. His loyalties are in doubt. Either he's trying to become the new Stalin and is genuinely shocked when he learns that Yanis' parents were Leanne's Cossacks, or he's willing to secretly betray the Russian government in favor of a fat paycheck. Or both, you never know. Working for them both is Ksenia Onatop, a Georgian fighter pilot and assassin who likes to kill victims by crushing with her thighs during sex. Given the more mundane approach taken for the other leading lady, I'm sure some of you might appreciate the relative glamour provided by Onatop. Also, there's Boris Grishenko, a computer programmer bought out by Yanis. He may be played for comic relief, but you don't joke around with the guy who hacks into the DOJ's mainframes in his spare time. Bond gets a new spy car, this time a BMW Z3 with radar and, allegedly, Stinger missiles. This marks the first time that James Bond is presented with a non-British car. If you take offense to that fact, then you have the almighty pound to blame. This was nothing more than a simple product placement deal. Besides, the car gets very little use in the film due to BMW only providing a prototype model which the film couldn't afford to damage in a real chase. But never mind that, we've got a tank chase! 007 also uses a grappling hook belt, a grenade pen, and with no explanation from Q, a laser cutter watch. And...
Don't touch that! It's my lunch!
The title song is performed by Tina Turner with lyrics by U2's Bono and The Edge, of all people. The lyrics, written from the point of view of a female stalker, have little to do with the movie's plot, but work as a gender-swapped version of Thunderball. The song is perhaps more famous for its cheesy Casio-grade synth horns and the over-the-top high notes Tina belts out at the end. As badly produced as this song is, it still fares better than the rest of the score, which was composed by Eric Serra and relies too much on cheap synth blasts and low-timbre kettle drums. I mean, listen to what he did to the Monty Norman theme. Sarah, I am disappointed. Where the opening credits fumble in sound, they stand strong visually. With the passing of Maurice Binder, the opening credits for this film were designed by Daniel Kleinman, who put more of a focus on computer-generated graphics. This scene revolves around the collapse of the Soviet Union and features images such as silhouette girls breaking apart Soviet statues, which in its own way indicates the passage of time, a rarity for this sort of thing. The decline of the Soviet Union turned out to be not a roadblock for 007's writers, but a boon. That said, I do take issue with the odd plot hole here and there. For example, how could 007 not tell that 006 was not executed at Arkhangelsk, even from what appeared to be a point-blank gunshot? And was this a spur-of-the-moment ploy on Ourumov's part, or did he and Trevelyan plan it ahead of time? Likely the latter, depending on when he was aware of his Cossack heritage and thus his desire to betray Her Majesty's government. And then, we still have to deal with the soundtrack, which, as I may have implied, is cheesy at best and awful at worst. But these do little to overshadow the fact that this story gives audiences of all sorts what they crave whilst reconstructing James Bond's role for the 21st century. All things considered, Goldeneye scores 90%, an A-, and a Dragon Award. This film is a must-see.
Yes! I am invincible!